everyone, Marcos Colón here with SC Magazine, and I'm sitting with Mr. Mathieu Gorge, who's the founder and CEO of VigiTrust. They specialize in security awareness training. Mathieu, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks very much.
So can you talk a little bit about the value of security awareness training? I know there's been some debate out there. Some people don't find a higher value, others do.
Yeah, some people are actually saying that security awareness doesn't actually improve security levels within the organization. I do not subscribe to that opinion. My view is that security awareness is linked to your corporate culture, and so if you manage to roll out a program that is linked to your corporate values, how you work, how you value the data of your customers, how you handle it, putting a value, a corporate value, a financial value, and then even a social etiquette value on the data that you handle on behalf of your customers or about your customers. You link that to your corporate culture, and it's not only improving the security levels within the organization, but it's actually improving the overall corporate culture of the company. So, one of the key questions that we get in terms of how do you measure the effectiveness of the security awareness program, which is really the root of that debate: are they effective or are they not? There's sometimes a challenge, because when you first roll out a program, you're going to educate people on how to report incidents. So when you start rolling out the program, what can happen is that a lot more incidents are actually reported at the same time, and people will say, well, we don't understand. We're just rolling out security awareness training, and it looks like we have a lot more incidents than before. The reality is not that. The reality is that all of those incidents were actually taking place, but they were totally unreported and undetected. So that's one good way of actually measuring it. Another way is to look at the number of devices, for instance, that go missing, which kind of links us into mobility. So today, a standard user will have probably on average 2 to 3 internet-enabled devices that may connect back to the office for corporate data, may even hold corporate data. And those devices go missing. They get stolen, they get forgotten at the back of the cab. And again, security awareness adds value there, because you can tell people this is the kind of scenario that we see for our salespeople out in the field. They go to an airport, they forget their mobile device when they go through security and so on. And you start educating people, and they start actually visualizing what's happening.
Now you mentioned mobility. What are you seeing out there in terms of any issues or threats or any problems in terms of mobility in the workplace? I know you mentioned a little earlier off camera that for retailers it's obviously a big problem. Have they caught up with PCI and issues like that? I know you were talking about that.
Yeah, so retailers today need to go mobile as well. They either need to go mobile within their retail environment, so within the actual location that they're in, so that they can get to the customer faster. They can actually catch the customer, maybe allow them to pay without going to the till, that type of stuff. And the issue there is that you need to secure the transaction. So the credit card from the mobile device into some sort of a connection back into the payment service provider and back into the credit card schemes and all the way back down. And so the challenge there is that you need to secure the mobile itself, you need to secure the application that's actually running on that mobile device, and then you need to make sure that you comply with PCI, PADSS, and so on. And the challenge for the PCI Council at the moment is that they're trying to understand how the various vendors out there are securing the data or not securing the data on specific devices. And so there's very little guidance at the moment. The good news is they're working on it, and there's some new guidance that came out in February, although it's still a bit light.
And you were mentioning that also a lot of these apps still aren't being developed with security in mind, which is obviously a big issue.
That's correct. So the key thing at the moment is to go to market with the mobile app as fast as you can. So secure coding, which is even in the traditional web world not necessarily priority number one. It should be, but it's not. In terms of mobile apps, it's not there at all. And trying to retrofit security into a mobile app after you've actually rolled it out and commercialized it is a challenge.
And obviously a lot of organizations out there are still grappling with certain issues, trying to implement a successful BYD program. What would you advise a CISO out there who's going through this right now and still trying to build this plan to then implement it at their workplace?
Yeah, so first of all, the CISO has to understand that it's happening whether they like it or not. So employees are bringing their own devices, they may or may not plug them into the network. So you're better off actually taking control of that process. So the way to take control of that process is, again, to start educating users that yes, they can bring their own devices, they are going to be used for work. These are the do's and don'ts. So this is the etiquette when you use it at work. Because some of the challenges that come up are around social media, for instance. So you might actually block social media on the PCs and the laptops. Well, how do you block it on a mobile device that is not yours? So you have to educate the users, you have to tell them what they can and cannot do. From a technical perspective, of course, you'd be well advised to look at an MDM solution, because it will allow you to manage your new assets that you don't actually own, but you're essentially custodian of those assets, and your data is actually on those assets. So you need to be able to remote kill it if the devices are lost and so on. And then finally, you need to have a very good process for managing how you actually allow specific devices to come onto the network. So for instance, you might decide that you're only gonna allow Android devices instead of other types of devices, because you're more familiar with the security of those devices, and anything else will actually block it. So it's, as usual, a mix of awareness, technical solutions, and a good process.
Very interesting stuff. Matthew, thanks so much for being with us today. Mathieu Gorge, CEO and founder of VigiTrust. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.